Thanks, Pascal and Corla, and I want to pay tribute to Deputy Smith and the PVP activists involved in working on this bill, but in particular the various organisations, and it's an extremely long list, too long a list to read out, organisations of retired workers who have been campaigning and fighting on this issue and looking for this change. There is a crucial context to this bill, which is a context which appears in this Dáil actually quite regularly, which is what can only be described as a war on pensions over the last number of decades. You've had the scrapping of defined benefit scheme after defined benefit scheme being downgraded to yellow pack defined contribution schemes. 3 out of every 4 defined benefit scheme has been shut as bosses try to evade their responsibility to provide decent pensions. The consequence of these defined contribution schemes is to leave people's pensions up to the casino of the stock market. Having worked all of their lives, all these workers want is the right to retire in security, in knowledge in terms of the kind of income that they'll have. We've seen by the government a similar reneging on responsibilities as they try to raise the pension age up to 67 and then to 68. I believe they still would like to do it, but were pushed back by the reaction they got during the general election. The government's strategy, as it is on so many issues, is to divide and rule. Young versus old, public versus private, when in reality, the division in this society is between the workers who create the wealth and then want to retire after having created an enormous amount of wealth, and those who benefit from that. Pensions are deferred wages. The right to a decent pension when you retire is one of the great achievements of the workers' movement historically, and one of the great achievements of the creation of social welfare states in the aftermath of World War II. The attack on the very concept and idea tells us a lot about modern capitalism and the priorities of the economic system. The truth is that we can afford a decent pension for all. Ireland is the 5th richest country in the world. We have the 5th highest number of millionaires per capita, and yet the government and the right-wing economic commentators say it's a crisis because people are living longer, as opposed to being a good thing that people are living longer, having created an enormous amount of wealth, and therefore should be able to retire in comfort. And the context of the bill is that many retired workers have found that after retiring, their pension rights have been whittled away through negotiations where they don't even have a seat at the table. We've had cases of direct cuts to benefits, freezes and more, and yet they have no avenue to speak out. Once they're out of the workplace for over 6 months, they can't even go to the WRC. All they're demanding is the right to be consulted and to go to the WRC. It's a very simple, very reasonable demand. They're demanding that retired workers are seen and heard when it comes to negotiations affecting their pensions. Because for too long they've been locked out, the representative groups have not been included, and they've had no rights to take cases to the WRC or similar bodies. This bill from People Before Profit would fix that by giving retired workers the right to have their voices heard, putting them on a par with current workers and their unions. It's been endorsed by retired staff associations representing hundreds of thousands of workers, as well as Age Action and the Senior Citizens Parliament. The message is clear. Don't gag retired workers, give them a voice. And yesterday, retired workers gathered outside the Dáil, demanding that this Retired Workers' Rights Bill be supported. But now we hear that the government's plan is instead to kick the can down the road yet again with a 12-month delay. But justice delayed is justice denied, and we and the retired workers will not accept this stalling tactic. The message of the protesters to the government was clear. They may be retired workers, but they are active voters. And if the government delay and deny this change, they will not forget. Having worked all of their lives, they are demanding basic rights, and they will not put up with being told that they have to wait. So I'll finish by simply saying to every Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and Green TD who is thinking of supporting the government amendment, to think again. If you vote to delay this bill, if you vote to silence those retired workers, then you better think twice before asking them for a vote in the next election. How you vote tonight will be a matter of public record, shared with those pensioners in your constituency. If you deny them a voice, they very well may vote to deny you a Dáil seat in the next election.